Oh, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gary with another Fan TV back at another video. Like the content of this video, go smash that like button. Like the content of this channel, go and subscribe, man. Look, the Ravens are back from the bye week, right? So I want to talk about a couple of ways I believe the Ravens can finish this season strong, um, and go into the playoffs. Hopefully, have some success, right? So when you come off the bye week, it's about readjusting, rearranging your mindset, and fixing some things that were plaguing you earlier on in the year and getting them right. Right. So for me, one of the first things I look at is the offensive line. Right now, I don't really expect the Ravens to change this because Harbaugh's going to be pretty stubborn on who he selects as his five. And it's not really to pick on Falele and McCary, but I think that Voorhees and Cleveland should go into the starting lineup. Right. When I watch the Eagles game again, right, when you watch the Steelers game, right? It's about play strength, right? And those guys, they just don't have it in that middle and that interior area, right? They're not very physically dominant, right? And for Voorhees, we haven't really seen enough, right? So for McCary, I believe that he's a swing offensive lineman, backup kind of guy, and he's being thrust into a role that I don't think it suits him. And Falele has been more of a project, right? He's had some good weeks, had some bad weeks, but against the kind of opponents that's going to give the Ravens trouble in the regular season or really in the playoffs, he's going to struggle against those kind of people, right? Quick and strong, he's going to struggle against those every single time, right? I don't think he's ready to go against that kind of offensive line, right? Defensive line, excuse me. So at least with Cleveland, we know that he has the strength to hold up in the interior, right? So I would at least like to see Ben Cleveland in there, right? But I know that's not going to happen, right? So the realistic solution is that Patrick Ricard needs to play more. Okay, so when the Ravens played the Eagles, right? Patrick Ricard only played, I believe, he played less than 30% of the snaps, right? It might have been less than 25% of the snaps, right? But it was a very low number. Okay, when the Ravens go up against these very, very physical teams, especially across the defensive line, the number for Patrick Ricard needs to be very high. Okay. Now you could say that it's an issue that the Ravens offense, even now in this iteration that's way past the Greg Roman era, depends on Patrick Ricard for pass protection and things like that. That's an issue, and I would agree with you. But we are where we are right now. Okay. The Ravens, when Patrick Ricard is on the field, I believe Lamar Jackson is more comfortable because he knows the pocket's going to hold up better, and I believe that it almost forces the Ravens to play in their best style of offense, which is heavy personnel, zone running scheme, and then play action off of that. Right? When Ricard is in the game, it forces the Ravens to do that. Right? So for me, if you're not going to directly change the offensive line, which I don't think John Harbaugh and the Ravens staff is going to do, at least what you can do is play Patrick Ricard more, right? That to me, that's a very, very key integral piece of how this Ravens offense can reach their fullest potential once again, right? I believe in these kind of physical games, for whatever reason that he's not playing a lot of snaps, doesn't make much sense to me. These are the kind of games where his snap count should rise and go up, but it seems like the opposite happens too many times, right? So that's one issue, right? The next one, I saw this on Twitter like last week, right? And it kind of shocked me, right? It's the target disparity between Zay Flowers and the next closest Ravens pass catcher, right? So Zay Flowers this year has 94 targets, right? Rashad Bateman is the next closest with 55, right? So we're talking about a 39 target gap between one and two. That's just too much, right? I like Zay. I think Zay is this team's wide receiver one, right? He does a lot of things well, right? I don't think he's 39 targets better than what Rashad Bateman can provide for the offense, right? And it's not so much about Zay Flowers versus Rashad Bateman. It's more about that the offense needs to have more playmakers' hands in it to be effective, right? This isn't like we got Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and guys that you got to force feed the targets to. No, it's not like that, right? So it should be more spread around, right? So like I looked at the target distribution for like a guy like Rashad Bateman, right? Rashad Bateman had a good game versus the Bengals on that was Thursday night, right? Um, he had like 6 catches, like 60 yards or 50 yards, something like that, and a touchdown, right? Game winning touchdown, right? Game decided touchdown. Okay. Then the next 3 weeks after that, he had like 5 targets total, right? So um that's not good enough, right? Now, obviously, one of those games is the Eagles game. He got hurt in like in the first quarter or whatever. So, we could take that as you may. But to me, the Ravens still don't do enough where Rashad Bateman is the first read, the primary read on a play to where they can get the ball in his hands quick, right? And once again, when this kind of goes against when the Ravens are going against these teams that are going to challenge the wide receivers on the outside, Rashad Bateman is really good at winning quickly on slant routes, drag routes, over routes, curl routes, versus man-to-man coverage, versus physical man-to-man coverage. He can win against those routes, on those routes against the physical DBs, right? So for me, I want to see that go up, right? And Rashad Bateman is a guy I'm talking about just because like he's the second best on the team. So and I believe that he's played well enough, he's been consistent enough, right? He has issues with drops, we know that. But he's done enough for me to where he needs to have more involvement in the offense, right? All right. Then the next guy, right? So I'm gonna go like three on offense, then there's one on defense, but the defense one is kind of like about the whole defense entirely, right? So the last one on offense, right, is Deontay Johnson, right? Now the Ravens, he's suspended this week. He's not practicing. John Harbaugh, they say they still don't have a decision on what they're going to do with him. I watched the press conference today, right? Um, I don't believe they're going to cut him. If they would have cut him, I believe they would have cut him by now. It makes no sense to hold on to him this long and then just to cut him, right? That doesn't make any sense to me. So Deontay Johnson will be part of the Ravens' future going forward for this year, right? He needs to be involved in the offense, right? Point blank, period, right? The Ravens decided to bring Deontay Johnson here with the idea of, him helping out if, Bateman or Zay or somebody like that goes down. And that happened, right? Bateman went down. Deontay Johnson refused to go into the game, whatever. But if you look at it, I can understand this frustration. You got Nelson Aguilar playing minutes over him, playing snaps over him, I should say, when he's dropping 2-3 passes a game. I'll be frustrated as well. You can't refuse to go into the game, but I understand the frustration, right? So now if we're past that point, let's get Deontay Johnson actually in the game and used to the offense, right? I said it in the video when I talk about Deontay Johnson, right? If it has to come to a point where somebody has to tell him what his route is on every play, so be it, right? You need his kind of talent out there. Just having him on this team, just to not use him, it's not good, right? So when directly that comes to Nelson Aguilar snaps, right? They need to be reduced, okay? Nelson Aguilar is a great mentor, great team guy, but when it comes to actually playing on the field, he cannot be trusted in these kind of situations, right? And the worst thing you want to see is that the Ravens are dependent on Nelson Aguilar to make a tough catch in the crucial games and crucial moments, right? I don't want to go down that path, right? That's not what I want to see. Okay, Deontay Johnson at least has a bigger pedigree than that, right? That we can hopefully trust him more, right? So that's what I want to see. You want to get Deontay Johnson more involved in this offense, right? There's too many times where they'll put Nelson Aguilar in the game because he's a willing blocker, right? And I understand that, right? You want a guy that's willing to throw his body around, this and that, but when it comes just to talent wise, Nelson Aguilar doesn't have that. All right, so he's not going to stop playing completely, but most of the snaps that he gets should go to Deontay Johnson, right? That's how it really should be, and that's going to help the Ravens offense as well. All right. Now on the defensive side of the ball, right? It's funny because when you think about what the Ravens do on defense, right? A couple of weeks ago, this video could have been just about the defense entirely, but coming before the bye week, the Ravens have kind of figured it out a little bit, right? They were playing better. They weren't allowing as many explosive plays. It's like the communication was good on the back end. We didn't see as much confusion. So for the Ravens, I think it's to really keep the defensive rotations the same, especially in the secondary, right? You found your two safeties at least for this year, right? Kyle Hamilton or Darius Washington. Those are your guys, right? If the Ravens find it to mix in Marcus Williams, so be it, right? But we know that to start the game or play the majority of the snaps, it's going to be Kyle Hamilton or Darius Washington, right? And I think the other thing I noticed what the Ravens did in the last game was Brandon Stevens played a little bit less. Brandon Stevens also played a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage sometimes as well. He came on a blitz a couple of times, right? So the Ravens are mixing up his snaps from just pure outside, and they're giving Trey White more of those snaps as well, right? So I like that, right? Trey White he's done good things since he's been a Raven, right? So I like that kind of rotation, right? Then on the linebackers, they've kind of been rotating Chris Borden a lot, right? He's playing well. Trent Simpson is taking a little bit of a back seat, right? And I'm not too down on Trent Simpson about it. It's just the simple fact that, if you think about it, this is really his first year, right? Last year, he didn't play, only played special teams. He played that one game at the end of the season versus Pittsburgh, and he played well. But now this is a whole season, right? So it's been a little different for him. It's been up and down, right? we got to remember the process it took Patrick Queen to get to where he was at, right? It wasn't just a 1 year thing, right? So that's why I go with that, right? So if you got a guy like Chris Board who's playing well, or even Malik Harrison on early downs, I don't mind seeing that linebacker rotation, right? I don't mind seeing that. And then even on the defensive line, I like what they're doing up there. I wish that that they played Adafi Owe more last game versus the Eagles, but I'm not gonna say that's the reason why the Ravens, didn't win or anything like that. We know the reason why they didn't win it. But I like what they're doing on defense, right? So this video about the defensive side of the ball could have been a lot different a couple of weeks ago. A month ago, you would have been saying change the whole defense. Right now, it's just little tweaks that they're already making just to keep doing that and hopefully elevate to where now it's not just about stopping explosive plays, it's about stopping the opposing offense in general, right? You know what I mean? So, Ravens are on the right track defensively, at least right now, right? But yeah, so those are my thoughts on how the Ravens can finish strong on this year, right? Make a couple changes on the offensive line, that might not happen, but at least get Patrick Ricard in there. And then the wide receivers, I want to see Bateman more involved. I want to see Dante Johnson more involved, right? These are ways that this Ravens offense that definitely hasn't been struggling, but that's gone a little bit off course the last couple of weeks. I think can bounce back and finish strong into the regular season and carry them through the playoffs as well, right? So that's my thoughts on it, man. Obviously, give me your guys' thoughts on it. Reply to our comments. It's Gary Roots on the Fan TV. I'm out.